Last night, you remember. Your dad coughed down your throat and gripped your neck. How you choked in his fist while his fingers pressed prints into your glass skin. Your koozie bulged with sweat. His laughter expanded through stone-cold trees in parody of echolocation. Mom tossed you in the yard because the recycling was full. She gives me a trash bag in the morning. How many times have the word alcohol or abuse worn away beneath his nails? How did you forget to fight back when his calluses pried your cap loose? How does his backwash taste? I dangle your dank body over the garbage bag's maw. You are achingly hollow. What is left in you is stale and invisible. A smell, a stench, a haunting. It could be your perfume or his breath. But I abandoned the philosophy and let you shatter in the bag. Thank you.
We sang in unison all of the lyrics and background vocals we could muster up. As we shouted the final lyrics to Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, we parked and started off into the store. My sister and I walked hand in hand through the crowded parking lot. We grabbed a shopping basket and began to run through the aisles looking for the butter. When we found it, we sat in front of the refrigerator catching our breath. A woman around the age of 40 stood behind us smiling. Your daughter is really beautiful. You both look exactly alike, she said, as she looked from my sister to me once more. Her smile was wide, she said, as we acknowledged our similarities, which happened to be everything. Thank you, ma'am, but actually, she's my younger sister. We get it all the time. My sister responded calmly as she held on tighter to my little hand. No, I'm not, Mom, I said as I snickered. I looked over to the woman, who was suddenly wide-eyed and nervously glancing between us both yet again. My sister stood there, her mouth agape, as the woman scurried off in total confusion and horror. Expecting anger and rage when we got into the car, she did something I never expected. She burst into a fit of obnoxiously loud laughter. I exhaled surprise and began to smile just before bursting into my own fit of troubles. I love you, Jen, I said. I love you too, Minnie, she responded. The house was loud with laughter and smiles as we sat at the dinner table later that night. My sister and I told a story to my family while we ate, and we continued throughout dinner telling stories of sibling tales. Sir Mix-a-Lot playing in the background. Thank you.
Ichihara Yoshizo was the vice commander and later commander of a secret police in Japan called the Shinsengumi. This group of men were created during Japan's Edo period and disbanded in the beginning of the Meiji Restoration, a changing point in Japanese history. Ichihara has shown me what it means to be a leader. The pink sakura falls steadily. Delicate petals press into the ground and bruise, some carried by the wind to the west. They look like snow out of season. Black ships sit on the coast, looming like poisonous waves. In Hokkaido, on the island of Ezo, Ichihara Toshizo, commander of the Shinsengumi, lay to rest. Oni Fukucho, they say, demon vice commander, wears his wakizashi and katana tied tightly to his hip, hand on them at all times. Women turn to sneak glimpses, but would not dare be touched by him. His hands are bathed in blood. Whispers cling to his reputation of the man he tortured in the name of the Tokugawa shogunate, and how he screamed. Demon Vice Commander, they said. But I remember when he carried a whole bucket of takuan back to headquarters. The haikus he wrote were crude, the downfall of all poetry, and the men laughed to think of him writing about cherry blossoms. Sakura. Hijikata, who cried at the seppuku funeral of a man he never knew. My commander, the cherry blossom trees are bare now. Black ships have smothered them. Hijikata died in Western clothing, tight-fitting vest and pants that never felt comfortable. His sword still tight to his hip. The soil felt foreign under his injured spine, shattered by someone's stray bullet. His horse, grinding him into the earth, becoming dust like his country. Though my body may decay on this island of Ezo, my spirit guards my lords in the east. Thank you.
Mother's love is like sunshine during winter. Deep, embracing eyes, soft, warm palms, passionate, bright smile, reassuring arms, outstretched and ready. I knew you loved me then, but I was young. My heart shivered in one place, and all I knew was that you wanted me. When I needed encouraging words, when I needed someone to talk to, when I needed my mother. Chilling phone calls, the teacher, the principal, the police. I was always the troubled child. I caused my ray of sunlight to recede into the darkness when I needed it most. I knew you still loved me. You had to. But time brought snow. Embrace weakened, cold, hard hands. I wanted summer to come and stay. I wasn't ready to give up the healing kisses when I fell off my bike. The "you'll do better next time" speech after I lost a game. Nor your applause in the audience after one of my band recitals. All but faded memories blown away by a cold breeze. I noticed you dipping into the horizon. I thought you'd come back. I'm older now and used to the cold. I think you still love me. For you told me a mother's love would never change, and maybe it didn't, but it turned. Frostbite. You said winter only lasts a short while. The sun will return. So I'm still waiting for the next life. After the seasons change, when the frost melts away, the sun rises above the cold, and the love from a mother shines through once again.
Body held up by strings, dancing for a puppeteer who composes his every move with a wooden stick, for those who can't see a show. The puppet is just a toy, a lifeless object given life by the mastermind who decided to enter and grant himself control. But the bond that was growing between the two is never. An unspoken teamwork is developed as time goes by. Each day the pair depend more on each other. The puppet for mobility and the puppeteer for company. The more time passes and the puppeteer forgets the reality he lives in. The door of his home stay closed, the blinds of his window welcome no light, and the familiar faces are forgotten, as well as promises were forgotten. The lifeless do not last. Toys become old. Things change. The puppet gets tangled into strings. Becomes still. The painted smile wears off his face. Everything is still peace. Anyone is welcome. An old dusty shelf where the puppet is laid to rest, while his master walks out the front door into his forgotten world, twirling the remaining wooden stick in his hands to keep him busy, in hopes to have control of something in his life once again. Thank you.
Father, forgive them. My son grew up running from darkness in a world plagued by night, where they do not know what they are doing. He grew up strong, courageous, and loyal, teaching those he met about another world. You will be with me in paradise. Another world, one where death isn't hired and where massacres aren't done upon children. A world of acceptance. Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? This world wasn't ready. His students became followers, disbelievers became enemies. He died because they saw treason in every word. I'm thirsty. Do you remember him? Great Father, my husband, do you remember him? The man who spoke of a heaven when all there was hell? It is finished. Thank you.
Daydream every night for 7 weeks. In it, we are lying in the overgrown lawn outside our middle school, watching
watching storm clouds split and roll into one another like a time lapse. Wind rustles blades of grass against our skin. We are thick and heavy on the ground, 2 mistakes. There is a blast of white light and a gust that lifts our bodies up into trees. We spin slowly in warp time, chins tucked, arms forward, on our backs. Venus's belt of arms encases us. She sings a lullaby, pale and blind, with eyes that have darkened over and teeth that shine brighter than the coldest star. Flight collides. We fall. Anything left of her is trapped in dried oil paint on cheap canvases sold to the strangers who ask me about her at your viewing. The brushes went in the trash. The walls are bare. I woke from the strain to another thunderstorm this afternoon and heard the soft hum of her voice muffled by rain. After thunder broke and it was washed away, I wasn't entirely sure I heard it at all. Venus never died. The belt thrives on restless consistency. You were endlessly breathless on the same pair of wilting lungs, wondering where the days went, one smoke after the other. I shaved and drove on flooded back roads to the burger joint on the corner. The reflected neon sign, Jean's Grill, fell into my windshield as I eased into a space and cut the engine. Jean snuck up on me at the bar and clapped his hand on my back. Look, he said low. Ahmed, I'm real sorry about your girl. Hang in there, all right? Whatever you order, it's on me. I appreciated that, but I couldn't find it in my throat to thank him. I try not to think about you, Lou, but I see you everywhere. I don't eat. It's evening now. The sun is dwindling. Collapsed on the bathroom floor, I and one of your paintings, grim and prematurely aged with sagging wrinkles and warm joints. I'm wet and dripping, the shower head is still running, and I hate my cursed hands. I'll add this letter with the others under my bed, stick it in an envelope and seal it shut. I thought I heard Venus's voice, so I stepped out of the hot water and listened harder, but there was no one. She didn't need rain to wash her voice away this time. She seized the pause, reminded me things will always be like this. The silence before good happens, and the rotation of loss while it never does. Thank you.
Her life consisted in this space. Pictures of her husband plastered on walls. His hair like candle wax stuck to his forehead. Right smile. Nervous voice. Look, will you go steady with me? They've been together for years. Even when destruction came to ruin them, pickpocketed, lies, he still promised forever. Even with bravery upon his back, carrying a stack of ammunition, he told her intimacy became his gun. He shot the target for years and knew the safety was off. And this house is dead. No more family dinners, no giggling, only brochures and crooked steps of what her husband left. She had his flag, perfect triangle, an apology letter from the government, too sappy to comprehend. We're sorry your husband's dead. No more. She kept this place conserved. Catalogs explain what knickknacks were his favorite. She had this flag pierced with bullets, stained with blood. Not for sale. Visitors bring her food as if stuffing her face will do her good. She has a soundtrack of marching men bringing their knees to their brick chests. She has posters of words soaked with discrimination of war. She cries in her museum, shaking, grasping her husband's shirt. His scent still lingering in his sense. Thank you.
The second tour guide was the one with the kayaks, an essential part of a kayak tour. On the 2 o'clock tour, we departed from the dock at 3 after an in-depth tutorial of how to paddle and what to do just in case we flip. There were 9 of us, 5 making a part of paddles. As soon as we got up onto the water, someone flipped. Ha, they thought. I mean, that really sucks for you, and I would totally try to help if it didn't mean compromising my own happiness. It was a beautiful day, and I was flying in the sky. I just had spring break with always imagined. My
The scenery was a luscious green and the water crystal clear. A breeze blew past at just the right temperature. Birds flew around, landing to rest for just a few moments. They were so graceful, I thought, like little bowling pins with beaks. It was lovely basking in the sun, savoring the last weekend of vacation. The oyster beds seemed so close as we paddled over them. I had never seen them at such a near distance. In fact, we were basically at oyster level. At one with the oyster bed. At one with the oysters. I am an oyster. Soon we could barely get over them, a little too close for comfort. I was in a tin boat, so I attributed the struggle to extra weight. My dad and I passed through the oyster beds with great effort before paddling became useless. We were stuck. My brother and sister were out of sight, but also stuck. Directly behind me was my mom, stuck. Right behind that was the other four-person party, stuck. And finally, the tour guide was behind them, completely stationary. Thank you.
Welcome to the convenience store. Grab a bottle of Coke, now we're to be drinking. I drink a bottle of vodka, if I could, wash away the aching in my bones. Life is underhanded, deceptive, cunning, a sociopath, charming and filthy. Lies spew from its mouth like bullets from an assault rifle. Cynicism sinking in, hate filling my lungs, racial benevolence polluting my mind, depression coursing through my veins. Missing school, sitting on the floor, chugging down a 2-liter. Mom asking what's wrong, I'm mumbling gibberish. I'm going to scream my lungs out and destroy this room. I have reached my personal Ragnarok, like all my gods were dying. I was fallen and my earth was burning. My searcher pushed me towards the edge, though not yet will I allow the Valkyries to fly me to Valhalla. So I crawl at the bottom of my life, feeling cold, feeling strong, keep moving, never slow. Frightened by the future, my baptism by fire. And so I pulled that arrow from out my conscience and I broke it over my knee. I walked into the coward succubus called success, and I seized her and sent her straight to hell. My dream isn't to live for success, but to succeed in living. Thank you.
You broken pencil, and how you pierced our hearts. With the sleepless nights and long hours. With empty minds, with blank pages, we sit and stare at the wall thinking of nothing. You are the storm before the sunshine, a blazing fire that scorches the earth, leaving nothing until the flower blooms in your cold, dead ashes. Without you, no good can come. Inspiration would dwindle, ideas would be in the past. Since you've gone, minds have cleared. Sleepless nights become the source of creativity. And we begin to dream again. Thank you.
Sitting in the car, waiting for the light to turn green, I stared out of the window towards the Walmart sign. A man held a cardboard sign that read, "Anything will help." Drew my eyes' attention to him and held it there. His bones showed through his only pair of clothes. His skin was dry as desert sand. As I was searching through my bag, trying to find something for him, we had already driven away. Only 12 years old, and I barely knew how to help others with giving hands. 3 years went by, and I spent the next summer in New Orleans in the homeless ministry. My stomach began to twist. I ate at least 30 homeless people lying under an overpass near a mission that opened later. It was the only place they could escape from the human air. Some sat on their beds, others sat on the concrete. Our youth pastor wanted everyone to at least talk to one person to get out of our comfort zone. I first approached a woman to hear her first story. She told me she got married at a young age and moved to Miami. She spoke with childlike grammar, BO, and cluelessness. Then a year later, she was diagnosed with AIDS. She told her husband, and he left only wanting a divorce. The divorce caused her to move to New Orleans looking for hope. She was trying to find a job, but nobody would hire her. She's been homeless now for 5 years. I was beginning to realize that others didn't have a roof over their heads or any clothes on their backs except the ones they left with. I probably will never experience being homeless, but at least hearing the stories of people without a home made me want to assist. Not every homeless person has the same story. People go through hard times, some more than others. Leaving from the overpass, a man stood with a cardboard sign. Anything will help. I got out of the car and gave the man a sandwich and water. My stomach is no longer twisted. It is now calm around my surroundings. Thank you.
Many years ago, when I was a boy, and when I did not know flowers, I was taken camping, and I heard the wolves howl, I heard a bear growl, and I was terrified. But as I became older, I had to camp alone because I was alone. With nature and the wolves, I was alone. I even saw a wolf once. And this time I wasn't afraid, because this time she was the hunted, and a brother of mine the hunter. And she whimpered to me as she died by my side. From then on, I was tired to cook meat every night and leave it for the bear to apologize to the flowers I stepped on. Soon the howls became comfort and the beady eyes soothing. But I still feared the woods because their fires are made for man and come for man. I don't want to camp anymore. Last night, the bear was absent, the wolves were silent. I saw the footprint of a fellow man on the ground, and I was terrified.
My whole body is pulsating to the beating of my heart, every vein moving beneath my skin frantically. I can barely hear the music blaring around me. I look down at my chest, seeing it rise and fall with my shallow breaths. Sweat has already formed along my hairline. I come to the edge of the rink and slow down. Step onto the carpet covered in flying saucers and poorly illustrated planets that seem to be mandatory in skating rinks and bowling alleys. Once I sit, my hands reach down to untie the skates. They cling to the curvature of my feet. After wiping the smeared makeup away from my eyes, I leave. Within a day, my body is used to having to make a step if I want to move. There is no questioning if I'm going to fall or not, at least not more than usual. The next time I get invited to go roller skating, I have to teach my body the way to move on this floor covered in lights. I tie the laces too tight, trying to make my feet accept these foreign objects on them and move forward. My breathing falters the first time I lose my footing. The process repeats endlessly. It is a cycle of learning and forgetting until we don't care enough to learn anymore, despite how unnatural the movement feels for the first few minutes. There is something beautiful in the way it feels to learn this for the first time, every time. It is that feeling of not quite knowing what it is you came for, but remembering you loved it, that keeps me coming back. Thank you.
Love, the incredulity of your beauty was such that it was open only to description from the top to the bottom of your life. Your hair, inconsistent amelioration, and the feminists defended it in every regard. In your eyes, you rue. Gratuitous generosity in your employment of powdered life. Your mot de foi, kindled your innocence. Much like you. How we will miss you. There is nothing left to fill the floors which you once occupied. The poor will surely assured take residency in your former home, now that they have lost the cooperation in the housing which you have established. Love is love with which we send south down the river. The same love with which we endured you when you were relatively living. When we gathered round the table and we recount our blessings, love, and wonder what we are doing here. Thank you.
letters Daddy are strung together, dangling haphazardly off the crisp blue lines of page, arranged into the sloppy makings of a sentence. When the dull point of the number 2 pencil cradled loosely between the thick fingers of your 4-year-old daughter are 3 words. I miss you. The letters Dad are squished in between rapidly forming bouts of uncontrollable laughter. Through her crappy camera lens, she sits in your old office chair, the spinny one with the tilted wheel. She's a bit bigger than you thought she'd be, but of course, she is 9. You tell her the usual, that the food is terrible, the pasta tastes like jet fuel, oh, and thanks for sending the Texas Pete because you really needed it. The letters Father are barely stuck together, one crashing into another in an attempt to escape from her lips. She's probably your pipe friend. You don't mention anything new on your own side, not the growing number of people who don't walk these halls anymore, not the reason why the guy with the funny voice, the one that cracks as if puberty hasn't quite hit yet, hasn't made an appearance on the screen in 2 weeks. Not the new shipmate you got yesterday because your old one couldn't drop his weapon fast enough. Just the usual. The food is still terrible, and thanks again for Texas Pete because you were seriously running low. Those simple letters Daddy plays as a question, hesitant, uncertain, are back with a vengeance. A twist and sort of tang to it. The man that answers in the 4th ring is not my father. I don't remember much of that conversation after the words, I regret to inform you. But of course, they're all wrong. You aren't gone. I recorded every video call we've ever had and saved every letter so that you could say goodnight to me from the ship and I could still say good morning to you the very next day. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zara Marlowe, and I wrote the following piece about the late Austrian painter Egon Schiele. Famous for his explicit art, he was arrested for having children in an apartment containing pornographic content. This poem is Egon Schiele, 1918. The train station is silent. Not a paint drop of noise, so different from the sketches your father ripped to shreds. It's still, like a canvas, waiting for your gentle brush. The cell the judge put you in is hollow. She stuck you here because she didn't understand you're like Ginsberg with an easel, like Courbet sketching the world. The prison bars hang loose, open. Like Edith's heart to you, your wife, like Wally's heart to you, the woman you should have married, like Gertie's heart to you, your sister, like the children's hearts, the delinquents remind you of yourself. Open, like a pair of legs, like your immune system, supple to the Spanish flu. 10 minutes to closing, the last stragglers in the museum are in another hall, the statue room, the gift shop. She comes into the new exhibit to sweep and stands shocked, awe slacking her jaw. Never could have dreamed to see this deliciousness in a real exposition. It's a wonder he's a success, the shamed customer behind her whispers. But your talent, she thinks, makes the naked bodies bearable. Yellow meets red, the curvature of a limb, clump of black, twists spine ridges, holes pocking, adrenaline marked in angles, models writhing. It'll miss you like a heartache the museum hall will. I can hear it crying, whilst crunching under the weight of a dead man's mastery hardly taught. From the prison portraits, to the prison, to the women, it loves you. Thank you.
Rest in peace, our dear friend Tupac. Hashtag music died when you did. We posted a retouched picture beside words which he never said. 51 favorites, 20 retweets. The world is devastated. Copain touched our teen pop hearts with our teen pop anthems dumb and smells like teen spirit. Tupac with his sweet serenade, ambitions as a writer. Our awareness of a movement will never be a part of Nipsey's culture. Our condemnation of ghetto slang and hipster music makes us superior. Hashtag grammar Nazis always win. Tied bandanas over foreheads, crop tops with dead smiley faces. We'll listen later. Of course, we respect them. That's why Kurt's suicide letter is on the hottest graphic tees, hashtag expect more, pay less. It's why we censor Tupac's lyrics in elevators and in car commercials. He definitely lives on in our hearts. Then we scroll down, searching for another post to share, another artist to mourn. Thank you.
I remember when I was 4, I burst into the house door, see you sitting there and shout Daddy's home with such glee. You never failed to put a smile on my face. I was 6 when I started first grade. My aerial backpack clutched tightly in my hands. I longed to hold your hand walking in, knowing it would make me feel safe. You weren't there. I didn't know where you were. Dad, I didn't see it coming, and I don't know how I missed the signs. 2 years passed, and you were like a ghost. My memory barely recalls your presence. I know the military kept you busy. It wasn't always your fault. But I can't help feeling sometimes you didn't want to come home. When I was 8, I cried for you in class. I couldn't understand why you were never there. I lied and told the teacher I had a headache. I started letting you go that day. When I was 10, I looked up the definition of father. A man in relation to his natural child or children. That didn't seem like enough to me. Just because you helped in the production of a child doesn't make you a father. Your absence created a world of hurt, and construction began inside me. Titanium walls and these thoughts. Surrounded the perimeter. I slipped into emotional lockdown. I grew up. Did you even realize innocence? I wanted to hold this going. When I was 14, I realized nothing I did would be good enough for you. The light in my eyes dimmed every day that passed. I became cut off from the world, hiding behind hoodies and books, trying to prevent being hurt any more than I already was. Why couldn't you let me keep my innocence? When friends asked me to come out, I turned them away. Why did I have to grow up so fast? I started depending on myself rather than turning to someone else. When you told me excuses were for the weak, I don't think you understood how much your words stayed with me. Echoing off the walls of my brain, making me push myself to exhaustion, trying to be something I thought you'd be proud of. Would have thought you had that much control. I certainly didn't. I thought I had given all I had away, but it still wasn't enough to bring you back. But secretly, I was holding on to the hope that you'd come back. I should have been able to trust you, but I couldn't. Because you were never there for me when I needed you. And it sickens me that it's the reason I'm too afraid to trust anyone else. Thank you.
Time stood still, the earth didn't pause, even when the heartbeat of an ordinary man quieted. He spit his last words into lonely air while his elderly wife was voting for president. He had been doing it his whole life, but she was just given the right. His family cried for their loss, but only in public. They became religious to ask God why, and when their tears dried, they forgot about God and crying. He left his family the rest of his wage, and for a while they sat on a mountain of grain. But when the wind and the rain came and corroded the mountain to a hill, they cursed his name. The head of his tombstone peeked just under the riches, but in the ground they all got the same view. The colors black and brown used to be his object of discrimination, but now that's all he can see. He didn't fight for the acceptance of others, he didn't fight for women's rights, he didn't fight for the end of segregation. He was just a 1950s man. Thank you.
The brother who grew up. It was inevitable. Time, distance, a tug-of-war game balancing the rope in the middle.
345 miles was more than enough. You were finishing your senior year of high school. I believed that we could talk more, get to know each other better, and I hoped you wouldn't drop your side of the rope. Eventually, you did. And while I held on, you grew more distant. I feared you lost me somewhere in between buried basketball dreams and blossoming aspirations of becoming an orthodontist. There was no time left for socializing, because you were up till 2 in the morning studying for exams. But I didn't want to believe that we had no time. Keeping in touch was definitely easier said than done. You're older. Foolish games of tugging ropes were not a part of the plan. Your future was already set. While I still sleep with the toy monkey you won for me at the fair last winter. Thank you. 1913. Dear Diary. Gold embroidered walls line the Tsarskoye Palace. The ceilings painted with murals. Magnificent chandeliers hang in a palace built for a king and a queen. No place for children. 1915. Dear Diary. Hours my eyes study pages with a cigarette in hand. My lungs filled with smoke. Snarls from my 3 older sisters, yet a smile from my beloved little brother, who played in the milky snow with me almost every day. Father is seldom home, while my mother just wants me to behave. We are the Romanov Empire, one big happy family. 1916, dear diary. You spread like a wildfire, burning the forest down. Father put a knife in the heart of the Russian government. We fled our home like baby birds from their nests to an unusual place, no place for royalty. Put on home arrest, never to play in the snow again. We sat on windowsills that ran our fingers on frigid glass that divided us from the outside. 1918, dear diary, woke up from our beds, forced to get dressed. My feet stumble, rushing down to a basement surrounded by men that look like toy soldiers. Sons of a gun-firing father and brother dead. Bullets bounced off the jewels sewn onto the girls' dresses, but jewels couldn't save our heads. Snow drenched in our blood, never to be played in again. Love, Anastasia. Thank you.
Mama is always gone, so she ain't never home. Except when she does my hair with pink foam. She combs it through and braids it left to right, then ties the ribbons round way too tight. Sometimes I get to see her before school, but other times I see her with Mr. Poole. Mr. Poole wears fancy clothes and tight braids in 7 rows. Mama braids his hair left to right, then redoes them every single night. Grandma says he likes it when Mama looks young, and that's why her shirts are always slung. Mama came home too late last night. Can't even breathe, that dress so tight. Grandma pushed me back into bed after Mama kissed my curly head. Her hair was shiny, straight, and long. So did the doctor get my hair wrong? Mama hasn't come home in a few days. Grandma says my hair is an unbearable maze. I broke 2 more combs since she's been gone. Hopefully, Grandma will put my braids on. They finally found Mama the other day. Her skin was sprinkled in sort of dark gray. Her beautiful straight long hair was pulled out, but when they found her, we all gave a big shout. Grandma stayed in the house and cried. You would think somebody had died. Mama's hair and my hair look the same. We don't have the good hair, it's a shame. Grandma has been in bed for a while. Who cares about good hair, child? Grandma finally lost a good fight. We did her hair up in a bun real tight. She had braids in the front of her head, and we laid bright roses in her bed. Mama went out with another man last night. Grandma, since you've gone up, can you please make it all right? Thank you.
Cat palms caress unfamiliar drafts. Charred words, stencil imagery, and science into worn covers. A beloved page turns. Metallic hounds sniff sizzling embers jammed in their fingernails. Ink trickles from paper cuts while scorching orange, red, and blue inflame houses on street corners. Ash covers calloused feet, reshaping stories into each soul. Anxious hands turn the page. Somber eyes wander up and down sidewalks, recalling the pedestrian. Driverless police cars draw closer, fogged windows cool flushed cheeks while you stare into the unsettled eyes of society. Shrill words stick to quivering skin when another page turns. You breathe in the stench of familiar ground etched into your wandering mind. Your soiled hands tremble over words and smear soot. Characters reintroduce themselves to their creator. They shake your hand firmly as you close these surrounding books, turning to ash at your slightest touch. Obliterated like embers, you regain remembrance with your signature, engraved into the covers of your books at Fahrenheit 451. Thank you.
Alabama closes her book. Charlie, have you ever thought that you're always so quick to anger? My, I'm getting wary of sleeping together. Just a few chapters ago, the husband in this here book throws a radio through the window, smashes light bulbs, and upturns the dinner table all in one nap. Well, what gets the man to get started with the ruckus? The wife went and flirted with the newspaper boy. I left an eyebrow at her. Well, I would never do such an adulterous thing. She cradles the book. Have you been reading this in secret? That's what's feeding you these crazy thoughts? Me? Crazy? I don't need no book to tell me the truth. My eyes alone can convince me. When are you talking about? So you admit it. I really did see you fool around with that newspaper boy last Tuesday. Charlie, you told me you were heading down to the hardware store that morning. Looks like I ain't able to trust you either. I went out not for the little buy-in, but because I forgot my wallet. It just so happened that I got a free showing of What the Butler Saw. The book. I snatched it, ignoring Alabama's protests. Its pink cover drips with temptation, with figures played together sensually. It's this newfangled filth. This is what's causing your acting out. It spreads lies to get men and women all mixed up out their place. Alabama grabs the book, but I'm not letting words get between us. Charlie, let go! No! And with a tingle from my fingertips, flames erupt on the book, licking my wife's fingers. Oh, Charlie, forgive me. It's just a newspaper boy touched me with a passion that didn't leave me covered in burns. She lurches out the room, her pained wails echoing in the hallway. I watch the book shrivel in a bonfire of my hands until it's nothing but a pile of crackling embers and ash. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. A flag that lies still, swabbed in its glass case, bound by obligations, just like my brother was. Looking at the distinctive colors, red, white, and blue, as they clash in an irrefutable war.